Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Who's ready for war? And if you ask me, I'm going to tell you that I think Terence Crawford may be more ready than Canelo. And the reason I say that is because Terence Crawford had a lot to do with Shakur Stevenson's performance this past weekend. And although Terence Crawford hasn't been active over the last, coming up on a year, physically in the ring, it doesn't mean that mentally he hasn't been active and still exercising the mind to help do things to develop a guy like Shakur Stevenson and prepare him for a fight where Crawford could find himself in something similar. Now, what I'm going to say is I just think Terence Crawford, he's in a tough fight with Canelo, right? Canelo should be the favorite. But I think Crawford stands to gain from this camp with Shakur Stevenson strategically, because just knowing that all the odds were stacked against Shakur Stevenson, and he had a pressure fighter who was coming in there, a high volume puncher. So strategically, Crawford, and of course Shakur has his team, but Crawford was also imparting his opinion and using his IQ and his experience to help Shakur deal with what he was going to be confronted with. But with Crawford and Canelo, he's not necessarily dealing with a high-volume puncher, but he's dealing with someone who's bringing pressure, something that could possibly see Crawford having a ring cut off on him, and he could end up on the ropes. He could be forced to exchange and let his hands go kind of like Bivol did, so that he can get some breathing room and force Canelo to reset. Canelo can't punch while he's moving. There's only a few fighters that can punch while they're moving. And in case you say, well, who? I'll give you two. And once I tell you the names, you're going to totally understand. Keith Thurman and Vasily Lomachenko. See what I'm saying? So when you think about Keith Thurman, you think about Vasily Lomachenko. You think about them guys moving laterally, moving, forward, moving backward, and punching while they're moving. Canelo doesn't do that. So I think for Crawford, I think he was able to, in preparing Shakur, also think about himself and being under pressure and what kind of strategies could work against a guy like Canelo. Now, for those of y'all out there, the McNicholases and the Seagulls, right? What you just heard was me say Zepeda and Canelo are the same. What you just heard is me say Crawford and Shakur is the same. That's not what I said, okay? So open up the aperture a bit and critically listen, right? Don't have these knee-jerk reactions and responses to what's being said. Try to comprehend. All right? In other words, hold your horses and don't take it to the stupid. Now, I think Crawford can also gain symbolically. And not just because he was, walked him to the ring, he was ringside, coaching and stuff, just like a chess player in his corner. I think, I think with the advice he was giving Shakur, especially during those early rounds, I think it showed his elite fight IQ. Let me tell you something. When Shakur's in that corner, he's listening to his corner. But if Ward and Crawford speaks, Shakur listens, and the corner listens. There's a lot of mutual respect between Shakur's camp and Andre Ward and Crawford. It's a tight-knit relationship. The rapport is on point. And when those guys talk, they're adding to the conversation. They want the best for Shakur. And I'm pretty sure that what they're saying is kind of filling in the gaps for things that maybe his grandfather isn't telling him. But again, they're not undermining. The ultimate goal is to get Shakur to a victory. But I just think during those early rounds, for Crawford, you could see that with the things he was telling Shakur, that he was reading the pressure situation in real time. So I could only imagine Crawford being in the ring with Canelo and in real time making reads on what Canelo's doing and being able to think spot on and make whatever adjustments or moves need to be made to ensure that he doesn't get overwhelmed to get clipped with anything. I also think it boosts Crawford's image, not just as a fighter, because for those who are really paying attention, now they get to a bit of a peek behind the tent flaps and to kind of pry into Crawford's mental to understand how this man's mind works. He's a data processor, man. He really is. I'm not saying Canelo's not. I'm talking about Crawford right now. The man's a data processor. He's just sitting there, man, and processing shit on the spot. And in my opinion, man, that has done nothing but help, grow his reputation as one of the more experienced champions and fast thinkers in the ring. And I think that's going to create a lot of issues for a guy like Canelo. Now, Shakir's win, I still don't see why people don't give Shakir credit. But what I will tell you is the majority of people with a little bit of common sense, what they're saying is, you know what? This shit ain't going to do nothing but add fire and add weight and add some credibility to the idea that Terence Crawford's camp produces mentally tough and technically sound fighters. What we saw with Shakir inside that ring, that shit had a whole lot of Terence Crawford written all over it. Now, I do think there's a part of Shakir who's trying to follow in Terence Crawford's footsteps, bubbling up a couple weight divisions, could possibly challenge Conor Ben. But the bottom line, we know Crawford is mentally tough. We know he's technically sound. And what we saw with Shakir Stevenson was a mentally tough, technically sound fighter. And I just think when it comes to Terence Crawford, what we saw with Shakir, the fact he helped him, it just adds some credibility to the idea that Terence Crawford could do the same thing to Canelo. And for anyone who's saying, you know what, man, what Shakir did, that's not a product of Terence Crawford's influence. In my opinion, I got to say, hold your horses. Let's not take it to the stupid. Because to me, what it does is it kind of spotlights Crawford's leadership and preparation methods, and you see what the end result is when all that's put together with the right individual. We know what Crawford can do, and now we all know what Shakir can do. It just makes this shit even really, really exciting knowing that Crawford and Canelo are going to scrap, because Canelo can think. Everything Crawford can do, Canelo can do. Crawford, Canelo he slowed down a little bit, but I just don't act like Canelo can't fight either. He doesn't have IQ. He does. But at the same time, when we talk about Crawford's camp, Canelo's camp, I'm not sure Canelo's camp is sitting here and thinking about being, strategic and technical. And I don't think they have a lot of momentum and people circling around them, just coming in ready to champion them into the ring. For me, I just think with the camp being under scrutiny for PED-related controversies, I just think that creates a huge problem, man. And you're looking at Shakir Stevenson and Crawford's team and Shakir's team, and how Shakir went into the fight as a clean fighter, got a clean win, got a decisive victory. To me, it speaks volumes, and it creates a lot of separation between the two camps. Eddy Reynoso came out, and he said he's no longer taking on any fighters to where he can't oversee everything. Eddy Reynoso came out and said that today. Now, I don't know if he's guilty. But what I will say is, from where there's smoke, there's fire. And he's the top dog. He's the head coach. There's some culpability there. Now, I ain't trying to get into me. But what I would tell you is, for me, that shit is annoying to hear someone who's in a leadership capacity sitting there deflecting and putting everything back on their people. I think that shit is horrible. Because you should have known. That's just how I'm wired, man. That shit was ingrained in me, and I believe it. I'm a father. You guys may be parents too. If you have a child who goes out there and does some shit, I get it. We can't be everywhere that our children are. Our voices should be in their head, but they're still going to do what they want. You know what I'm saying? But if they get themselves in some trouble, you got to own that shit. And it's the same thing to me, a trainer and fighters. You got to own that shit, man. Especially when it's not 1, 2, 3, 4. It's about 6 and 7 people, man. So don't come out here thinking that, that I'm going to believe that, I'm Eddy Reynoso, and my camp is built on skill, not shortcuts. We don't take shortcuts. Hey, yo, Reynoso, you got a cartel going on over there, a drug cartel. So hold your horses and stop taking it to the stupid. Who's ready for war? It ain't Canelo and Eddy Reynoso. Reynoso is trying to shed fighters right now. He's trying to get everybody off his ass. He more focused on saving his ass than preparing Canelo. Who's ready for war? Crawford ain't worried about nothing. Crawford walking around here like Robocop. Y'all see Crawford walking around looking like Robocop? Terminator? Terminegro? Viva el Negro? Cabrones? Crawford ain't worried about nothing. That man got a clean mind, healthy mind, and he ready for war. Now, I'm not saying he's going to beat Canelo. I'm just telling you this is my opinion and my perception of what we're dealing with real time with Crawford and Canelo. Canelo's camp got to be in shambles. We know Canelo's a consummate professional. He probably doesn't even need Eddy Reynoso to train. Probably train himself like Eubank Jr. was doing for a whole lot of years. Y'all know Eubank Jr. used to train himself. Isn't that some crazy shit? But anyway, I just think right now, man, when you think about the public perception of Crawford and the public perception of Canelo, I think going into the fight, more people are gonna start really pulling for Terence Crawford to get the victory. The only thing that surrounds Terence Crawford is a passionate dislike for the man. And that's so unfortunate. These people just have a passionate dislike for Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford has done nothing but win fights. But I think that frustration, that passionate dislike is starting to kind of grow. You know, it's starting to flourish a little bit when it comes to Canelo Alvarez, Eddy Reynoso. I think people are looking and saying, you know what, man, it's amazing that after Canelo fought Floyd Mayweather, that his career took off. He was out of there. How is that possible? Because he jumped up multiple weight divisions and did the business, and Manny Pacquiao did, and to this day he gets crucified by certain people saying Manny Pacquiao was on the cocktail. It's impossible to jump up that many divisions. Now, where Canelo had kind of escaped that scrutiny over the Mexican beef and shit, El Carne, it's all back on his ass now. Damn, boy, something fell down. Anyway, talking about Canelo and shit starts happening. Goddamn, the Reynoso cartel, the secret society up in here, huh? That was my goddamn light. Hold on one second. There. I put it right there. That shit bright as hell though. Huh? See, that's the thing with this motherfucker. All right. I think that's good. I just don't want that bright ass light on me. There. That's better right there, man. Lights on me, man. Stop there thinking Ice trying to get hood champion and shit. Hey, man, I'm legit. Don't need to come after me, man. But anyway, that's just my opinion on everything, man. You know what I'm saying? The public perception and everything for Canelo and his camp, I just think it's taking a dive. So when you start talking about the legacy that Crawford's created, that Canelo's created, if Canelo loses to Terence Crawford, man, people aren't going to be talking about how much of a defensive genius Terence Crawford is. They're not going to be talking about how we should have known what was going to happen between Crawford and Canelo because of how Crawford mentored Shakir to beat a pressure fighter like Zepeda. What we're going to be talking about is Canelo, how he lost to a smaller fighter, and how maybe because of what's going on in the Reynoso camp with all those fighters testing positive, that scared them to continue their pattern of PED usage. Now, remember, I'm not saying Canelo's doing anything. I'm just having a conversation. So y'all are welcome to say, nah, I don't see it that way because we're just talking. It's just like making fight predictions. Nobody knows. I got the hood champion crystal ball over here. But nobody knows what's going to happen in an effing fight. We just speculate, predict, dialogue. But that being said, Terence Crawford and Canelo, would you say they're both generational stars in boxing? That's a good question. But I tell you what, I think Canelo, and he said this, he's kind of in a lose-lose. If he beats Crawford, how much credit does he get? If he loses to Crawford, as far as being a generational star, that shit goes out the window. Supposed to be Mexico's best fighter ever. And we know everybody loves Julio Cesar Chavez. It's a bad boy. But there are many who feel Canelo, and they'll say, Fernando Vargas will say, I love Chavez, but if you're looking at belts and accomplishments, you got to say Canelo. It's like nobody wants to say nothing bad about Julio Cesar Chavez. But I tell you what, when it comes to Cesar, ain't nobody gonna be putting Canelo over him no more if Canelo loses to Terence Crawford. You know what I'm saying? So again, I think Crawford has the opportunity to add another layer to his legacy, and Canelo has an opportunity to keep his head above water and possibly go on to a Shiraz fight, a Eubank Jr. fight, or whatever it is. But in my opinion, if you want to know who's ready for war, Omaha, Nebraska's finest, the Omaha, Nebraska Bing Bings, Terma Negro, Viva El Negro Cabrones, Terence Crawford, or Canelo. Man, I think it's Crawford who's ready for war more than Canelo. Because Crawford, it's like having your mind. He has a clean, healthy mind. Canelo, his team, their minds are all congested with a bunch of stress and bullshit and worrying about heads and everything else and the public perception of them. Their minds aren't clear. They got time to get it cleared up. But anyway, man, starting to think more and more Terence Crawford gonna clip this man. Anyway, legacy's in motion. Y'all keep cool. I'm in the breeze.